this is part 4. It's going to be a little shorter than the others, but I want to take some time to do these right. You know, we have a special relationship with God because He loves us. He sets His affection upon us. And we can see this is just a regular deck of cards. But He sets His affection upon us. And when He loves us, that sets us apart from everybody else. And just like there's 52 cards in this deck, there's bunches of people in the world, but when God sets His affection upon us, it sets us apart as special unto Him, and it marks us as His special treasure. And so what I'm going to ask is if you would just, as a mark of affection, if you would just blow a kiss at my deck of cards. Oh. And so she has now set her affection upon that card, but we don't know where it is. So we're going to have a little experiment here. I call this DNA ESP. I have this theory that when your DNA is put on something, that you can be kind of bonded with that. That becomes a part, and you can just even recognize that even without knowing where it is. To test that theory, I'm going to ask, as I'm fumbling through these cards, if you would just call out stop at some point while I'm rifling through there.
Stop.
Right there? Okay. And if you would just take that next card, and clutch it to yourself, don't look yet.
Okay, don't look at it.
What we're going to do is we're going to look at the rest of these cards and see if there's any marks. I don't see anything there. Now, if she set her affection upon one card, let's see if that card that you chose...
Oh, boy.
And just as that,
Good.
and just as that is with us, when Christ sets His affection upon us, we are marked with His mark, His special mark. And even when there's 52 others, or 150, or 1,052 people around us, God knows that He set us apart with His mark, and His affection is upon us. Now, for our next thing, I want you to know that God knows the future, and that we can rest comfortably and securely in the knowledge that He knows what's coming long before we do, and we can just relax and be comforted that no matter what we see that's unexpected to us, God's already taken care of it long ago. And I want to give you an idea of that with this next effect. I want you to see there that there's indeed a completely empty envelope. No tricks, no. And I want you to see here that this is a piece of that kind of paper that you put through your computer if you have a digital camera, and it produces the pictures that you've taken. And I'll have you watch as I stick that into the envelope, and I'll take this and I will seal the envelope shut before we do another thing, and I will pass that off, and you are now our guardian of the envelope. Now in here I have a deck of 52 cards. And again, we're going to do the same thing, and I'm going to shuffle these up, and then as I riffle through them, I would ask you to just shout out stop at some point, and we'll take the very next card.
Stop.
Right there? Okay. Now if you take the next card and clutch it to yourself, don't show anybody yet. Okay. Now we're going to take the envelope back. Now I said this was photographic paper, so I'm going to just kind of wave that towards where she's holding the card, and hopefully that the warmth of her warm, loving heart will project through that card and into this envelope and create an image for us to see. You see there's nothing else in the envelope, but produced on the card is a picture of the Ace of Diamonds. Now, if you would kindly remove that card from your chest and show us what card.
Yeah.
And that's to show us how God, and just for your, they are all different cards. But that shows us how God knows the future, and even though He reveals it to us later on, He knew about that future all along and had it all taken care of, where we don't have to worry. Now the last one I want to show you tonight is a special one to me. It has to do And again, we just have a standard deck here. Now what I've done here is I've taken the liberty of moving all the aces to the front of the deck. And I'm going to set those here for a moment. And I'm going to take the rest of the deck and just shuffle it up. And I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to show you how that applies to real life. Now these are all aces because I want to tell you a story. My dad was a pilot in World War II. And when you were a pilot and you did a number of good things, usually it was getting rid of enemy pilots, after you'd done enough of those, you became what's known as an ace. And they were having a World War II reunion of ace pilots. And they were all at this hotel. And we're going to let this stack of cards represent the hotel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you if you would just take half of those aces. Okay, and then if you would take one of these two. Okay, now I'm going to leave that one with you. You can give that one back to me. I'm going to set that over here. This is the one you chose. That's going to be at the end. Now we're going to tell a story. This is the last night at the hotel. Their reunion's almost done. And they're going to go up to the restaurant that is at the top of the hotel. And they are going to have their last kind of reunion meal together and, you know, swap stories and late into the night. Just because they never know if they're all going to make it back the next time. You know, it's only every 10 years and things happen. So as they're heading up in the hotel, the first pilot says, you know, he says, last time I was up there it was a little chilly in that restaurant and I don't want to be cold. He says, I'm going to stop off at my room and just pick up my jacket on the way up. Now don't let those divisions in the deck to persuade you. Just stick one of the aces in anywhere you'd like.
Up or down?
Down, if you would please. Just anywhere in there is good. Very good. She even purposely missed a slot. Very good. So the next, as they're going up to the next thing, he says, you know, we're going to be going late into the night, and I promised my wife I'd call her every night just to let her know I'm okay. He says, I'm going to stop off at my room on the way up and just give my wife a call, and that way we can go as late as we want and we don't have to worry. So he stops the elevator and he gets off at the next place. His room's pretty high up in the hotel. And then as he's doing that, the third ace says, you know, last time I was up there it was a little pricey and I had to go back down to my room and get money. It was a little embarrassing. He says, I'm going to stop off at my room and pick up a little extra money, stick it in my wallet just to make sure I have enough so we can just go and not have to worry about anything. So he stops off at his room on the way up. All right. Well, the last one says, I'm going to go all the way up to the top. He says, and I'm going to reserve us a table and wait for you guys. And so sure enough, he does that, and he hears the elevator making its way up all the different floors of the hotel. And finally it goes ding, and here he is sitting at the table, and he watches the door of the elevator as all three of his friends get off and join him for dinner. Now, what that tells me is that, you know, we're all given different abilities, and some of us don't rise as high in life as others. You know, some of us have very, very boring, you might even say, jobs or positions in life. And we sometimes wonder if God's paying attention to us or if we really matter. But you know, when we all get to heaven, if we get to that great banquet feast of the Lamb, and we'll see that He pays attention to each and every one of us, that first of all, we all got there. And it wasn't because of how good we were one to the other, but because He loved us all equally. And so we all arrive safely at our eternal home because God loves us equally no matter where in life we were stationed. But the other thing it reminds me is that they all got there and they all partook in the meal. That even though one was on one floor and one was on the other and one was on the other, that at the end of things, they all arrived and they all received the same reward. And it's important for us to remember that you know, you may not seem as important, not as many people may know your name, you may never, you know, get on YouTube and do magic that people that you've never met will see. But the important thing is that you remember that God always sees you, and that you are going to arrive home just the same as anyone else, and your reward will be the same because it isn't based upon you or where you were, but it's based on His love for you. And He always, always is faithful.